Welcome to a SiriusXM radio presentation.
Tonight, Ron Bennington interviews musician Donald Fagen. And now, from the SiriusXM studios in New York City, your host, Ron Bennington.
Good evening, and welcome to Ron Bennington Interviews. I'm Ron Bennington. Tonight we'll be talking with a genius, musician, singer, songwriter. Donald Fagen, along with his partner Walter Becker, used his carefully detailed song arrangements and a blend of pop, soul, funk, and jazz to create the unique sound of Steely Dan. They were incredibly popular back in the 1970s with albums like Can't Buy a Thrill, Pretzel Logic, and Asia, and they're still selling out stadiums all over the world. Tonight, he's here to talk about a new solo CD, Sunken Condos. Stay tuned as Ron Bennington interviews Donald Fagen.
Since you've been gone,
Donald Fagen's brand new album is Sunken Condos, and I'm not the same without you. Welcome to the show, sir. Good to see you.
good to see you.
And perhaps one of the more optimistic and better feeling breakup songs in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's guys definitely booming and zooming.
Sunken Condos is the new album, and it is an album that you could say, just press play, let the whole thing play down. You guys, Michael's in here with you as well, and you guys have set up a mood in this album that I think is that kind of an old school album where you could just put it on and leave it on.
Mm-hmm. What would be a new school? You just put it on and take it off?
Yeah, well, now what people do is they'll just play a single song or everything is a mixtape. You know what I mean? So I don't know if people sit down and listen to albums.
Yeah, I don't know either. I actually don't have that information. But, yeah, I mean, back in the day, you know, as the kids say, yeah, it was fun. Everyone had some good-sounding speakers. You'd sit down and put out an album, and if it was a good one, you know, you'd, for 45, 50 minutes, you'd, you know, really get into it, and it would have interesting listening curve.
Well, you guys produced this together. Michael Leonhart isn't here with us also. How about the sequencing of this? Did it take a while before you decided how the tracks were going to play out, or did it?
Michael?
I think there were really only two options near the end. We had two different sequences. We kind of knew what would come first, how to start it off. And it's typically there's usually, you know, the second or third song might be flipped for the sixth or seventh, but it wasn't that hard to sequence it.
And you guys put this together on the road. Most of the writing took place on the road?
Not really. Actually, I have a hard time writing on the road, so usually in between tours, I'll, you know, sit in a room with a piano and have a regular schedule, daily schedule, and I'll usually have some notes and either musical or some lyrics written down, and you know, I'll look at what I got and you know, just start hacking it out, you know.
What is it about keeping, though, a schedule? Because a lot of people just kind of let the muse show up whenever it does. But for you, it's better to be on that schedule?
Well, I think for me, the muse, you know, it's I'll get ideas at random moments, and that's what I'm talking about notes for. That's what's on my notes when
Right.
But after that, it's, you know, so it's a combination of serendipity and discipline.
Right.
When you start working on it.
You've got to have that craft, though, to be able to work at it.
I do, yeah.
You know, the interesting thing, too, is that for years you didn't tour and you didn't play live. And I think in the last couple of years, I've seen you with 3 different bands. I've seen you with Steely Dan, saw you out with the Dukes of September, and I saw you with Levon's band.
Yes.
And every show was just kind of so different
Yeah, they
from
are
the one
different.
before. Is that kind of helpful to the creative process? As
Yeah,
well?
I think so. Maybe not in any direct way, but you know, just getting out and playing a lot and playing with different people who have different styles. I think it's very healthy. You know,
Yeah.
it's good for your brain.
Well, that's the funny thing about seeing you with Levon, because that wasn't totally expected that you guys would have meshed and worked out great.
Actually, I think we had more in common than might be apparent because we both like blues and old R&B and soul records and that kind of thing. So, yeah, we used to talk about that stuff all the time. And I think we have we basically like kind of old school kind of feel and all that. And so and we actually knew a lot of the same tunes. What I didn't know is I don't know too much about country music or some of that southern stuff that he knows, but black music I know quite a bit about it.
Well, we do always think of you as really urban. You know what I mean? There's an urban sound to what you've always done, and of course, he's always been so country. And then with the Dukes, I think it's one of the funnest shows to see because I never got a chance to see those like old Motown reviews where it keeps changing.
Right,
and that's the best thing about being, I think, at a Duke show is suddenly the show turns into another show. Almost from one song to the next.
Yeah, for me, a review is the most entertaining kind of show because it's like one singer after another. You don't get bored,
right?
And we have a mix of hits from our own repertoires.
Yeah.
and then we have these covers we do of songs from the 50s through the 70s or whatever.
Just stuff that you guys all grew up with and all kind of
tunes that we either we feel we could, one of us might be able to do an interesting take on or whatever.
But also, Ron, the one of the results of being on the road with the Dukes is that's how Donald found the Isaac Hayes tune.
Yeah, that's true. Doing research for Dukes. Mm-hmm.
And it's just different songs that, like, this was a little deeper one that you came up with, and that like a lot of people hadn't heard. So, what was it about that song that jumped out at you?
Well, I was looking for some good tunes to revive, from the 60s and 70s, and this Isaac Hayes tune, Out of the Ghetto, which wasn't like a hit or anything, but I liked the tune a lot. And it occurred to me that the word ghetto, most younger people only associate it with the inner city and
Sure.
and so on. And I realized they probably might not even know that it started out, as a European word, meaning where they kept the Jews, So I thought I'd reclaim the word for the Jews, so that so instead of like the South Bronx, it could be Warsaw,
Yeah.
and because that way, like Scarlett Johansson could be like Ghetto Fabulous.
Yeah.
She gets it back now. I'm actually sitting here thinking I don't think I've ever used it in any other way other than
You're about to.
Yeah, now we're
It's
going
gonna
to.
change.
Now we're back.
So the only we did it in a kind of subtle way. We the only real clue is the kind of klezmer arrangement we have in the background. So it's kind of a little sneaky, but
How long to? And by the way, there's all great players on it, and the production is fantastic. But we've come to expect that out of you. I mean, you've always
thanks.
have this high standard that you've been going for years. But even when I see you guys live, the players are always phenomenal.
yeah. Well, we got great players. Michael, of course, is one of them. He's a trumpet player and plays a bunch of other peculiar-looking brass instruments too, but he plays something called a trombonium.
Yeah.
The mellophonium.
Mellophonium,
Looks
and
like a Dr. Seuss instrument.
yeah, he plays a Dr. Seussonium and all kinds of stuff. But he actually on this album, Michael introduced me to a few players that I hadn't been aware of who actually played on the album. William Gallison plays harmonica, and there's a violinist,
Antoine Silverman.
and a bunch of other guys around town.
So once you guys get into this, once you start it, was it like song by song, or did you guys sit in and finish the album on? And when?
Well, I had these demos I had made, and I gave a couple of them to Michael, and during sound checks, like at Steely Dan shows or Duke shows, once in a while Mike would sit behind the drums, and before Keith Carlock got there, because you didn't want to be caught dead behind the drums when Keith was there. But he'd just play a little bit, and I always liked his feel. So when he was gonna be involved with the album, I said, "Look, I like your feel, take these demos, put some earphones on, and just play to the couple tracks, and they came out so good. He ended up actually playing the drums on all the tunes as well as the other things that he did on the record.
So, Michael, how quick before you figured out, hey, this is a real project? We're not just kind of having fun, fooling around with some songs. This thing's going to go.
Oh, I knew it was serious in the beginning because Donald and I had done some things that were just for fun before. We had messed around with a jazz quintet just during the touring downtime. And Donald said, I have enough songs for a new album. Why don't you come over and maybe you'll play drums on a few? And I started with that. He was thrilled the way it came about. And soon enough, I was co-producing with him. And by that time, we were headed into a Steely Dan tour or a Duke's tour in a couple of months. So we knew we had pockets to work on the album. And as he said, he wasn't going to work. When he's on tour, he's on tour mode. So it's kind of a clean break. So we did the rhythm tracking in the beginning. We went on tour. I would listen to some of the stuff and plot out what we could do on when we got back. We'd come back and do vocals, background vocals, horns. Then we'd go on another tour.
It was kind of a piecemeal type of deal.
That was the only way
concerned,
we could finish it.
And because your schedule now, I guess, is busier than it's ever been in your life. And you're playing all over the world, or are you playing?
Well, Monday we're going to Japan with the Dukes, and then I guess in the summer I'll probably go out with my partner Walter again with Steely Dan, and so yeah, there's all kinds of stuff happening.
Isn't it interesting that Japan would have a market for the Dukes? Just it's such an American sound. I mean, it's soul music and blues.
Actually, I think the Dukes is not that surprising because they, Japanese people are great historians of art and music. The American art and music, they love like old school stuff. Like
American soul,
including fashion, soul music.
It's amazing how they get to it. There's that. I don't know whether you've ever seen them. I got obsessed with them on the internet. They're called Steely Shodan, and it's it's this show band that does all your stuff, and it's really fun to watch. Have you seen those guys?
No, but I'm going to sue them.
The great thing about them is they have. See if you can find it.
What's the name exactly? How do you spell that?
Steely Shodan is the whole thing, but they have these Asian girls filling in.
Cool.
And and like check them out. Which one are they doing here, Fez? Turn this around so we can see it.
Oh yeah, Steely Shodan.
Yeah.
This is IGY.
Yeah. Now we know it.
Hey, the guy's like kind of trying to.
Yeah, he's doing the whole.
Hey, they're better than we are.
His head is tilting.
Yeah, right. He's doing the whole thing.
That's creepy.
All right, it's starting to creep me out, okay?
It is really weird. And you can see, like, it seems like he's just doing it phonetically. I'm not exactly sure if he has the language down.
That would be my guess.
Yeah. In this album, one of the things about you always, too, is not just the music, but the lyrics. And in stuff like Slinky Thing, where the narrator is kind of this creepier guy that I think that you are. Do you...
Well, yeah.
You're not saying one way or the other.
Yeah.
But, a lot of... so many singers would stay away from those kind of characters. And you, whether it's your solo work or Steely Dan, have always embraced that.
Well, yeah, I think Walter and I were both kind of, literary types, in the sense that we read a lot. We like, fiction, and so we always thought of the songs as little stories, and usually, pretty much when I sing, I'm essentially, portraying a character. I think on the solo albums, maybe the characters are a little closer to me, but they're still characters,
But Ron, I don't find that one creepy so much. How do you find it? It's more
I'm
self-conscious.
I'm saying nobody would want to be into that thing of being the guy who's seen that way. I mean,
because he's kind of a loser in a certain way.
Well,
although he does okay with the girl.
He does okay with the girl, but everybody hassles him for him.
Yeah, that's true.
And there have been, remember when Frank Sinatra was with Mia Farrow, even though he was Frank Sinatra,
right?
It still opened the world up to bust his balls forever.
Right. You know what it is? I think part of it is, I think in in rock and roll, it's kind of it's been a thing where people don't want to be honest about aging.
Right.
They don't want to be honest about what happens to your body as you get older, and in fiction writing, actually, it's in modern fiction writing, it's quite common, like in a Philip Roth novel or something like that. So that's just a matter of being honest, really, and looking life in the face, kind of,
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest parts of Donald's voice lyrically.
Yeah.
Is that fearlessness, that just kind of like, you know what, I am what I am, here it is.
Yeah. And of course, that is almost, in so many times, that's almost anti-rock and roll because, the rock and roll and blues is always, I've got the biggest dick, I'm the baddest ass, I'll kick. But no one really wants to sing a song about not exactly getting there.
Although I think blues music, like especially old school blues, there are songs that I think, address the idea of aging. I think, I don't know if I can think of one offhand.
Well, everything from Chess.
Well, yeah, like Muddy Waters, things like that. There are a lot of songs about bragging about sex and stuff like that, but there's also songs that look at the downside of life in a certain way.
But isn't it really weird, too? I think it's an American public thing that we always want our sports stars to go out on top. We don't want to see Muhammad Ali get his ass beat. We don't want to see, there was, at the end of just about every career, it goes off kind of sad because the body breaks down. And how long have they busted, the Stones balls? Probably since the mid-'60s. Like, are you guys still doing this shit?
Yeah.
And you're like, what? No one's doing it better. Why do they have to apologize for being the Stones?
Yeah, I agree. It's like, certainly, when Mick comes out, some people feel this sort of cognitive dissonance because, there's this guy singing essentially what are these sort of teenage songs, but that's his medium, that's a performance medium. It never really bothered me that much so I think because it's a sort of part of the joke.
Right, but also in my case, if the blues guys would have stopped touring, I never would have seen John Lee Hooker. I never would have seen B.B.
exactly.
King. So I've always used to go in to see older performers because that's the only way that you were going to catch anybody from that generation.
Well, also, I saw the Rolling Stones maybe 6-7 years ago, and I have to say they were great.
Yeah,
and I couldn't believe. Jagger's energy,
Well, and actually, if you look at them, Bowie was another one that were better than when they were in the 70s because they've kind of living a somewhat better lifestyle. So in terms of being an audience member, you're going to see a better show than you would have if you would have seen some of these guys at their, so-called peak. Lyrically, this is also another great album by you. How do you know? Is there a thing where the words are coming first or the music? Is it all happening at the same time?
That varies. It's sometimes I'll be walking down the street and I'll think of even hear a conversation or something. I'll get an idea for a hook or some lyrics or something, and then other times it'll be music. So it all depends really.
Is it a conscious thing that happens as that stuff is coming in? Or
Definitely not.
Yeah,
Definitely
never.
Not.
Even after all these years, there's still a matter of luck and circumstance.
Yeah, the germ of the idea is it's just luck, I think, in a certain way.
Michael, what about for you? Is there any songs that you come in that while you're co-producing this? Do you ever find yourself saying to Donald, all right, this is good, but I know you're better than this? Or
maybe not in those exact terms, but that's the nature of our relationship, that we would sit there, and I realized early on, he's not going to put this out until it's great. So this has to be great. I'm here not to kiss his ass, but to actually be a sounding board. So
once in a while he kisses my ass.
Yeah, then
that's any marriage.
Any marriage, you got to do that.
But for the most part, we'd be doing things.
I'm kidding.
Work on instruments. Even lyrically, this is someone that I kind of stay away from because it's a complete thought. But there would be words who'd say, we need something. It's not going to happen today. And he'd sit with it, and we'd throw some things, one or two words, form, structures. That's the process. It's to really throw it back and say, okay, this is good, but how can we make it better? And in the same way, I would say, well, what if we tried this? And you go, nah, we can do better.
I think actually we both surprised each other on different days, like, he would say, you mean that's not good enough? and I would say, I think I could be a little better, and then it would work the other way too on another day. I would say, are you kidding me? That sounds great. And he would say, well, go out and try it again.
Yeah, right. It is amazing, though, that at a certain point you have to decide you're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you've put in enough things and you've taken out enough things. And does everybody have to say we think the song is done? Or?
With this, it was easy. It was when we ran out of money.
Yeah, always a good sign. Always a good, and actually, it's always a good sign to be on a budget because if not, you would go on forever. You know?
Yeah. That's,
Well, maybe, but it's also, to me, the way that Donald worked was very much like what I've seen in documentaries about Fellini or Kubrick, where you're looking for a shot, and you will film it day in and day out until you know it's there. And when it's there, you do know. When the instruments are in tune, when the groove is there, when the vocal is there, it's undeniable. It's not looking for
that's
something.
true. I think that's true. I think I could have used another week or two. If there was a little more money.
Yeah, we talked about maybe adding horns to one more thing, but I felt I knew. I said this is really close to done, and then a month later it was done.
It's interesting that you bring up cinema with that too, because there's been so many times, like if I saw a Tarantino film or a Paul Anderson film, I say, "Damn, that reminds me," and I don't even know why, of a Steely Dan song. That so many of those characters that you've invented over the years kind of live in almost a cinematic
Well, maybe
world.
we read the same pulpy novels from the 50s,
Yeah. Had you ever thought of maybe, writing a novel or doing film?
I don't really think I have the touch for fiction. I'm not really good at plotting and things like that. I have written articles and essays and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, next year I think they're going to be collected in a book for Viking Penguin, but fiction is not my thing.
Not at all, even though you've given it a try?
Yeah, I've given it a few stabs, and it's really I'm better with sort of reporting in a certain way.
And yet, all these songs to me always seem like they have that beginning, middle, and end. There's always structure.
Well, that's because
I
can write something that lasts 5.5 minutes.
But we also said, I said this in another interview, that I was shocked or surprised to hear that Donald, he said, when I write characters, I always know the room they're in. And I said, all the details.
Right. They exist in a
Yeah,
place.
that's true.
And that was cinematic and very much like a novel. So maybe he does it in a 5-minute medium, but it's the same approach as a screenwriter
Right.
or as an author, that that's why all these, what you're saying is all the characters are fully realized, and that's why.
Yeah, and the tone of the place and the kind of world that they live in. Are you going to, in the middle of all these other tours that you're going to do, is there going to be a solo tour for this album as well?
Yeah, we're thinking about it. I know that we're supposed to be do a tune on a Letterman show on November 15th. And I'll see how the album's doing when I get back from Japan. We'll decide then.
Well, I can't imagine that there's not a Steely Dan fan that's not on board for this album, because it is. I do say throwback in the style of you expected greatness from albums, and this is one that delivers for us.
Oh,
Again,
thanks a lot.
that you could put this on and say, this album, you don't have to get up and change it at all. Let's go out with Weather in My Head, which
right.
I think is an amazing song. Thanks so much for stopping by
All
here
right,
today,
hey, thanks
guys.
a lot.
Thanks
And
for having us.
I'll hope to see you guys next time through, okay?
Okay.
This is Weather in My Head. It's Sunken Condos. Pick it up.